Now that we've wrapped up the Digimon World's main storyline, before moving on to the medal hunt, I think it would be a good time to take a closer look at its successors and show what went well and what went the other way. I will only cover games that were originally titled Digimon World, leaving out those that were named that by the localization team. So there are no DS games, as they are part of the Digimon Story series. To record the footage from all the games and refresh my memory of them, I played each one for 3 to 5 hours. Okay, here we go.
Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load.
I wouldn't blame anyone for not knowing what a PocketStation is, as it was a Japanese exclusive accessory for the original PlayStation. It pretty much was a memory card with a 32 by 32 pixels LCD screen and 5 buttons that could give the player access to additional content in a few games that supported this device. Bandai, being a company that loves innovation and gimmicks, made a game that extensively used the capabilities of PocketStation and cleverly titled it Pocket Digimon World. It had its little plot about helping Digimon retrieve the artifacts stolen by evil Digimon by raising Digimon and sending them to battle. But the main attraction was the gameplay, and speaking more precisely, how the game used PocketStation. Connecting PocketStation to the PlayStation running Pocket Digimon World turned it into a quite advanced virtual pet that the player could then take with them anywhere to raise a Digimon from egg to mega by taking care of it, training and battling. Connecting it back allowed using that Digimon in the main game by, for example, participating in the Coliseum battles. By raising and using Digimon to battle, the player would then various goodies such as music or concept arts. Later Bandai released 2 additional expansions featuring different locations and Digimon to raise. Additionally, Digimon from Pocket Digimon World could then be used in Digimon World 2, allowing for an easy access to pretty good Digimon. Sadly, the game is Japanese only and very niche at that, so footage and information are very limited to this day. Still, I would feel very bad by not mentioning the game at all, as it still remains a piece of Digimon World history. In primary school I was friends with a group of older boys from the block. They were 3 to 6 years older than me. We traded games, played them together, we did plenty of cool stuff. I was like their little bro. Years later I kinda stopped interacting with them and they became more of my dad's friends as they exchanged movies. Anyway, they also helped me with Digimon World because I was too stupid to solve the drill tunnel plotline and ended up bashing my head in tropical jungle. They also told me about Digimon World 2 being sold and where to get it. I couldn't believe they've made another one. My tiny young brain couldn't even imagine what Bandai could put into a new game. I expected the same gameplay, maybe a little bit polished, exploring a new file island with more Digimon to recruit and raise, with the Mega level as the game's main feature. What I got when I started to play this game was something else. The FMV that precedes the proper game is really hype, with top-notch visuals and animations showing a battle between two groups of 3 Digimon at various evolutionary stages, revealing that indeed mega-level Digimon are in the game. I vividly remember trembling from excitement after seeing that intro, button mashing through a bit creepy main menu and then... Huh? Humans? Lots of text? Futuristic looking buildings resembling military infrastructure? That's different. Then I got booted to a map with only one destination that I could choose and... Now I'm in a weird looking machine that travels on a grid-based map made of rooms and corridors. Moving consumes fuel. What is going on? Where are Digimon? Oh, here's one. Man, it looks weird. Okay, time to battle. Oh, it's turn-based with multiple combatants. Okay. It's obvious that when making Digimon World 2, Bandai threw away nearly everything from the original Digimon World, pretty much reusing only its Digimon models and their animations, which is perfectly fine. I like working smart. For the sequel they went with Dungeon Crawler, in which battles feature multiple Digimon each taking turns attacking till one group is wiped out, with Digimon receiving traditional experience points and leveling up instead of gaining stats individually, changing the game formula completely with each new installment became something of a trademark of Digimon World series. As if Bandai, unhappy with the sales figures and reviews, desperately tried completely different approach each time to find something that will truly strike gold. To be honest, I've accepted it pretty quickly. Once I reached Leomon, who is the boss of the tutorial mission, and heard a music track that is definitely too good to be theme for the first boss fight of the game. Digimon World 2 was more like a game I wanted the original one to be. I liked turn-based RPGs, and even if I haven't played any mystery dungeon games before, I found that style of gameplay really enjoyable, though deep at heart I was kind of sad that it deviates from its predecessor so much. Digimon World 2 takes place, mostly, on the Directory continent, a completely new section of digital world. Our hero, called Akira by default, lives in one of the few human settlements called Digital City. Lately, Digimon are becoming more and more aggressive, coming to the city to cause chaos. That's why Digital City has 3 groups of what essentially are paramilitary organizations that use tanks called Digibeetles and Digimon to explore dungeons called domains, eliminating invading Digimon leaders to ensure the safety of the city. With the end of the tutorial mission, Akira gets his tamer license, his own Digibeetle, which can be named by the player, and can choose which of the 3 guard teams he will become a child soldier for. Times are tough, and it seems that child soldiers are a common thing. Teams differ between each other by the type of Digimon they mainly use. Digimon types, as in data, vaccine and virus, are much more important in Digimon World 2, as there's now a resistance and weakness triangle. Types also play a big role when fusing Digimon, and there are items that only work on Digimon of certain type. Oh, and one more thing. Selecting your guard team is a really important decision. You basically choose how hard you want the game to be for the first several hours. Gold Hawk and Agumon have it easy. Most of the starter bosses are virus. Pepper Breath is quite powerful, and Greymon is amazing. Meanwhile, Blue Falcon's Patamon struggles against the early bosses, has the weakest attack, but his Digivolution is quite good. Demi-Devimon from Black Sword, The first floor of the first available domain has only vaccine Digimon, so it is possible to wipe out on your first encounter. Hope you saved! His attack is weaker than Agumon's, but stronger than Patamon's. It's quite pricey because it has a bonus effect of reducing the target's MP, which doesn't work on the enemies. And then there's his Digivolution. It's not Devimon, it's Ice Devimon, who has a worthless support technique at his disposal. Rant over. The gameplay is split into two parts, exploring domains and the preparations done in the city. The leader of the chosen guard team gives you one or more missions set in specific domains. You have to deal with one or more bosses. To reach them, you explore semi-randomly generated mazes of corridors and rooms using your Digibeetle, while also dealing with patrolling Digimon and obstacles like rocks, landmines, acid pools, electrospores, and bug nests. Each domain consists of multiple floors, and your objective tends to be on the final floor. You go deeper into domain by finding and then driving into a teleporter. Each time you move your Digibeetle, energy will be consumed. The standard rate is 1 EP for moving 1 square, but it can get much higher if a strong energy bug latches onto your ride. If your energy reaches 0, you'll be booted out of the domain and you'll have to pay 1000 bits for a new autopilot module. Same thing if your Digibeetle gets battered enough by the environmental hazards, so its HP drops to 0. HP and EP can be restored by items that you either bought before the mission or found on site inside treasure chests. But beware, chests can be trapped, and while you get the item inside, your Digibeetle can lose HP, have one of its parts rendered non-functional, or have your controls scrambled for a while. You also have very limited inventory and have to prioritize which item is more useful to you. Dungeoning in Digimon World 2 is both really simple and complex at the same time. Later domains can get really long and annoying though, and you can save only outside of dungeons. Losing a battle results in game over and a complete loss of progress. By defeating enemy Digimon and selling items found in treasure chests, you can upgrade your Digibeetle by buying and installing new parts or tuning up existing ones at the garage. Neglecting your tank makes exploration much harder and sometimes even impossible. For example, there's a domain which first floor is always the same and always includes a corridor blocked by an electrospore that requires missile launcher installed and specific ammo present in your inventory. 3 different launchers can even be used in battles to heal and buff your Digimon and to hurt and debuff your enemies. There's always something useful that you can purchase, so you'll constantly use your money. The resource managing aspect is done really well in this game, and that's a must in this genre. At the start of the game you only have one Digimon, who is a mascot of your guard team, but if you want to be successful, it's a good idea to find company for him. To recruit a Digimon, you need to literally shower it with gifts that fit Digimon's type by launching them from your shooter gun. When I first played this game, I missed the NPC who instructs you about how to befriend wild Digimon, and actually never tried pressing the square button to target Digimon. I thought that having gifts in my inventory and simply beating Digimon over and over again will suffice. It didn't. I played solo Digimon runs that ended at a point where you need to reach rank 3 at the Coliseum, which is an impossible feat thanks to Giromon, who counters every attack you hit him with and causing confusion as a bonus. There's also that infamous mechanic that everyone who played Digimon World 2 knows about.
It's an arrow.
You see, there's a point in Digimon's life when, upon reaching high enough level, you'll notice that the experience needed for the next level is a row of 8 nines. Gaining experience doesn't reduce that number, so even if someone was crazy enough to grind, the game still wouldn't let him do it. To be able to reach higher levels and, by extension, also more powerful forms, you need to DNA Digivolve, which is fusing two Digimon into one. That's of lower Digivolutionary stage than the weaker of Digimon used in fusion. You get only one Digimon from each fusion that has a default level for its evolutionary stage, with a potential maximum level of that reached by the first Digimon used in fusion, plus level of the second one divided by 5 and rounded down. So you basically sacrifice your 2 well-raised Digimon to get one that you'll need to level up from scratch. You will also have to befriend another Digimon to replace the one that was used as a fusion fodder. If you want to have a full functional team, you'll need to raise 2 different teams. The problem is that while you can have more than 3 Digimon in your Digibeetle, only those in your active party gain experience. Of course, you could simply capture high-level Digimon when they show up inside the later domains, but they are much weaker than Digimon raised from scratch.
Bruh.
And they max out pretty quickly. One can say that it's similar to the limited lifespan in Digimon World 1, to which I say, it really isn't. In Digimon World you can achieve astounding amount of things during one life cycle. You can even finish the whole game while the 8 nines completely stop you in your tracks. If they really wanted you to DNA Digivolve, they could simply lock access to popular Digimon behind this mechanic, or lure players with better stats or quicker leveling. Instead, Digimon World 2 cranks wasting players' time up to 11. There are many lesser yet still irritating quirks like no in-game information about technic power, really bizarre evolution lines that forcefully try to keep the same type, Gabumon being one of the only ones that break this rule, as he can become Garurumon, who is a vaccine. Some Digimon hit an evolutionary dead end, which can be cruel if one of your main Digimon ends up as one by accident. Numemon, for example, can't become Monzaemon in this game. Each Digimon only learns one special move, Walking on foot is pathetically slow, clunky, and can be done only in 4 directions. Each domain looks pretty much the same as the others. It all adds up to the frustration. I really want to love Digimon World 2, but I think that I'm not masochistic enough anymore. But as I said before, there's plenty of good things in this game too, from tripling the number of Digimon available to player, and sure, there are recolored Digimon, but Digimon World 2 is also the only game where some Digimon, like Tinmon, are playable. The gameplay was fresh and its systems worked well together. The plot, while nothing brilliant, and once again suffering from a wonky translation, was surprising, and the reason why humans and Digimon coexist together now made sense. The characters, while often one-dimensional, were likable and added the feeling of being in a cheesy anime. In the second half of the game, you visited File Island and File City. The music is, in my opinion, even better than Digimon World 1 soundtrack, with Digimon Center being one of my all-time favorite tracks. And while human models look quite plastic and the backgrounds aren't as creative as in the predecessor, the graphics are a lot more colorful and crisp.
Shake it, baby.
The game was never released in Europe though, which is puzzling as Digimon World 1 sold relatively well here. The reason probably being how late we got Digimon World 1 and that the next one was just around the corner, or maybe it was the cold reception in the States. Bandai put a lot of heart into Digimon World 2 and it shows. They really wanted it to be different. Sadly, their ideas, while they might look good on paper, needed a lot more polish. I don't know whether it was because of the lack of time or money, but it's a great shame, as I truly believe that inside Digimon World 2 was a lot of untapped potential. Of all Digimon World games, I think that Digimon World 2 deserves a remake the most, and would benefit from it greatly. It physically hurts me that there is so much wrong with Digimon World 2, and that I can't fully recommend it. With collectible card games becoming increasingly popular around children, Bandai wanted a piece of the pie for themselves and released a Digimon TCG called Digibattle that was quite short-lived outside Japan. They also made a video game very loosely based on Digibattle, 2 games actually, which gets kind of confusing. The first game, Digimon World Digital Card Battle, was only released in Japan 12 months after Digimon World's premiere. Our Digital Card Battle is actually the sequel that in Japan is called Digimon World Digital Card Arena. We didn't lose too much by Bandai not releasing the original card game, as its successor is pretty much the same game with refined gameplay and graphics, more cards, and a different story. In the first digital card game, we actually played as the protagonist of Digimon World, revisiting locations from the main game and resolving conflicts by playing card game. In the sequel we use an avatar that is a revamped model of the protagonist, but we're just a user of the in-universe online Digimon card game. We visit really silly themed cities to win tournaments so we can take part in more tournaments. The plot is pretty much an excuse to keep the game going, and that's fine. There are also cameos of Digidestined from Digimon Adventure 02, Also, our old pal, Analog Man, shows up as the final boss, using his hacking skills to cheat. Preparing for that battle and winning despite his unfair advantage is definitely the high point of this game. Outside the card battles, everything is done by navigating various menus and choosing options, as there's no exploration per se. User interface and menus are stylish, sleek, eye-pleasing, there's no clutter, everything is just a few clicks away, there are cute animations. I can even forgive Bandai for using Comic Sans here and there. Navigating between cities uses a protagonist's model ripped straight up from Digimon World. Each battle portrait has a card superimposed on it, which is a nice touch. The main meat of the game is, of course, the titular digital card battle, and it is quite different than the physical Digibattle game that was printed in the time of the game's release. It uses some of its mechanics, but is much more streamlined and simple, which, in my personal opinion, is a good thing, as instead of the mess that Digibattle was, Digital Card Battle is really good and addicting. It takes some getting used to, but you'll completely get it after 2 or 3 battles. The game mechanics are really well taught, and there are many interesting ideas, such as both players seeing cards in the opponent's hand, allowing for planning ahead. Digimon cards having a secondary use as support cards, the ability to discard your whole hand and drawing a new one as often as you want, having an option to use the top card of your deck as your support card to potentially change the whole game while risking a loss of an important card at the same time. The AI is surprisingly decent and actually can play mind games with the player. For example, buffing one type of attack to convince player that it will use precisely that attack, to completely counter the player by using the other attack. The game has a lot of complexity, with each of the 5 Digimon specialities having different strengths and weaknesses. Reds being high power low defense, blues focusing on defense and countering, greens leading to quick and aggressive play with its rapid digivolution, blacks having really good but extremely risky effects, finally yellows that are gimmicky to say the least. You also have special partner cards that you level up by winning battles and that can be customized by choosing up to 3 upgrades from ones that you collect during the game. Sadly, you get only 3 random cards each time you win a battle, so it will take a while before you'll be able to truly experiment with options that Deck Builder offers. Unwanted cards can be used in fusions, allowing for acquiring the ones that you actually want, or you can use them as level up fodder for one of your partners. Battles have animations that you can turn on or off at your leisure. They are pretty, silky smooth, and take place on different battlegrounds depending on the city the tournament takes place in. The only problem I have with them are the sound effects that Digimon make. Some are pulled from Digimon World 1, but feel weird. Playing with animations turned on obviously makes the battles take more time, so most players will probably turn them off after a while, though I recommend turning them on every now and then, especially after adding some new Digimon to your deck, as those animations are surprisingly well made and seeing them is a joy. In moderation, of course, as watching them constantly repeat will quickly take away their charm. The soundtrack is also really good, featuring remixes of some songs from various seasons of the Digimon anime. One of them should be playing for a while right now. Sure, there are some shitposty themes, but it only showed that the developers had a lot of fun making this game. Digimon Digital Card Battle is an outstanding game for those wanting to satisfy their card game itch. It is on the easier side, and you can make an unstoppable deck with a basic understanding of the game mechanics, but I would say that it's a part of its charm. It's really hard to summarize a game that is so gameplay based, so if you like virtual card games, go for it. Really. I simply can't recommend it enough. With their next Digimon game, Bandai once again tried their luck by changing the formula. Instead of monster raising exploration with real-time battling gameplay of Digimon World 1, or dungeon crawling using a tank and 3 vs 3 turn-based Digimon battles of the original sequel, we got something that is more like a traditional JRPG. This time, interregional releases were less spread out. The game launched in the US in June 2002, while Europe only had to wait 5 more months for its PAL version. Curiously, Japanese players received their version a month after the US, though that first version lacked post-game content that would be present in Japanese Digimon World 3 and European 2003. The name change of the PAL version came from the fact that it would be weird to have a game with a number 3 when the one ending with 2 was never released. The game begins when our new main character, with 2 of his friends, logs for the first time into Digimon World, which in this game is a MMORPG run by powerful Magami Corporation. The first thing we have to do is to create a game account by choosing our username and which set of starter Digimon we want to use. Players access the game through the virtual reality stations that connect the real world with Digimon World. The opening reveals that the technology in Digimon World 3 is much more advanced than it was in 2002, which I'm not a big fan of. Digimon stories work best, in my opinion, when they take place around the time of their release. And while a game where we take a role of a kid simply enjoying playing an online video game would be interesting on its own, the plot very quickly gets completely bonkers. There's an error that makes players unable to log out. European cyber terrorists led by an evil lord.
Nicht vergessen, kein Virus.
Hackers, military satellite, and a threat of the total erasure of humankind.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
The visual design is also much different from the previous 2 games. The characters are stylized chibi sprites that are quite pleasing to the eye, placed on colorful isometric backgrounds that are filled to the brim with interesting details, showing that the world designers had a lot of fun with this game. At first, I was really skeptical about abandoning the 3D character models, traversing pre-rendered backgrounds, which at that point were synonymous with Digimon World, but it grew on me really quickly. Actually, I think that a new sequel to the original Digimon World would work very well in this graphic style. It also fits the MMORPG theme extremely well, resembling many games of that genre, released both before and after Digimon World 3, with Ragnarok Online being the one that came to my mind almost immediately. Battles take place in more detailed 3D environments, instead of endless void-like corridors known from Digimon World 2. changing fights from 2 teams of up to 3 Digimon each, duking it out to one-on-one duels, allowed for Digimon models to be a lot more detailed. Some models are in fact so detailed that Digimon World 3 has to squeeze every little bit of PS1 processing power, which sadly causes the frame rate to oscillate between 10 to 20 frames per second during battles. I would really do just fine without having to watch that muscular Greymon though. In the overworld, the game stays silky smooth, though if you move too quickly there will be that weird tiling effect that masks pieces of terrain that haven't loaded yet. The music, as always, doesn't disappoint. Also, some tracks from Digimon World 2 get reused, like the shopping theme, Victory Fanfare, and multiplayer battle theme. Your party consists of 3 Digimon, but during battles only 1 Digimon is active. During your turn, Digimon can use standard physical attacks that don't use MP, attack using learned skills, can change their form, switch places with other 2 Digimon, use an item, or escape. If your Digimon has speed that is much higher than your opponent's, you can get multiple turns, contrary to how it worked in previous games. At first, battles feel really simple, but with leveling your monsters, you get a lot more options. As you level your Digimon, they unlock Digivolutions, which have increased stats and different techniques available to them. Digivolutions level separately from rookie form and can lead to different Digivolutions. In the end, every Digimon can unlock every Digivolution in the game, even if it will take ages to do so. All in all, counting every different form as an individual Digimon, there's 62 of them, which doesn't seem like a lot when you compare it to Digimon World 2, but every single one of them feels quite different and unique. Leveling up gets you training points that can be used in gyms to partake in stat increasing lottery, featuring really cute animations. Just like in other RPGs, you can buy equipment in shops and arm your Digimon to increase their stats. Getting stronger feels really satisfying, which is good seeing how grindy the game really is. That's perhaps the game's biggest issue. Getting to a new area or reaching a boss enemy often results in a very painful difficulty spike, sometimes making poor player grind for 5 to 10 levels. There's also a lot of backtracking to earlier areas. The game doesn't really do a good job at telling you if the area is safe for you to explore. Going just a few screens from the beginning area will result with you being utterly obliterated by ultimate level enemies when you still use rookies. And wiping out to an enemy results in being booted out to the main menu and having to load the last save, which is really painful as this game has perhaps the longest saving process I've ever seen. That's another problem with this game. Loadings. Every time you enter a building, move to other area, or do anything in the menu, will cause the game to load additional data, making you wait. Loadings aren't really that long, but there is so many of them that they quickly add up. In contrast to previous installments, you don't meet enemies in the overworld. Encounters are entirely random and plentiful. Few times after making a single step, I was booted into another battle. There's no way to turn off or reduce the number of encounters. Finally, you will often feel lost in the game's world, and finding and resolving side quests can feel like black magic when you're not using a guide. There's also an expansive distraction in form of a card game that you can participate. It's different than the one in Digimon Card Battle. Simple, easy to learn, and surprisingly fun. Meeting new players, beating them to earn boosters, collecting cards and making new decks is a great side gameplay loop when you get annoyed with the constant barrage of random encounters. I'm a bit baffled how much attention they put to that not so little side game, but at the same time I'm grateful as it's great. Even if I think that Bandai wanted to play it safe with Digimon World 3 by making it more like a traditional JRPG, tossing away the quirky elements of its predecessors, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, especially as the game is really slow with progression. It's not Digimon World, but on its own, it's a fine JRPG that I can recommend, even if it has some obvious problems. I just wanted to ask, what were they thinking making Protocol Forest, Bug Maze or Mobius Desert? First the leveling up in Digimon World 2 and now this? Why? I'm starting to think that Digimon World's creators hate their fanbase. Nah, let's just go to the next game. Digimon World 3 pushed the old PlayStation to its limits, so no wonder that everybody interested in Digimon waited eagerly for the series to hit the then next-gen consoles. In 2005, that wish came true. Sort of. In Japan, the game had X instead of 4, to coincide with the 3D animated movie Digital Monster X Evolution, which was also the debut of Giromon. The movie was never released outside Japan, so they changed the name. But hey, at least the intro, which uses scenes from the movie, is really good. They also completely changed the gameplay once more.
Oh man! Oh god! Oh man! Oh god! Oh man! Oh god! Oh man! Oh god! Oh man! Oh god!
This time even more drastically by having the player control Digimon directly as it travels through the stages, hacking and slashing through the waves of mooks. There are no humans in sight, but there's a lot of Digimon, also Digi-Elves, gremlins created for this game just to be NPCs, I guess. Instead of natural means, such as claws or fangs, Digimon use plethora of weapons, some being more viable than the others. At the start of the game, you get to choose your first form from Agumon, Gilmon, Dorumon and Vmon, each with their strengths, weaknesses, available techniques and preferred weapon types. Home server fulfills the role of your main hub, where you shop, save your game and choose your missions. Its structure reminds me of gathering hubs in MMOs, quite fitting as this game was created with the multiplayer experience in mind, even though there was never an official way to play online. The faster I'm going to say this, the better. Digimon World 4 was designed as a co-op hack and slash light, and encounters are balanced the same whether you play solo or with a full team. This game is infamously hard, and many players didn't have the perseverance to go through the early game hell and beat the first level. And while the list of levels is quite short, they are actually pretty complex, with many different sections. Too bad that most players won't experience them all. You can move your Digimon freely around the 3D plane and are able to jump, which allows for evading both the obstacles and the enemies. Combat is the main meat of the game. It's simplistic but functional. It's all about the constant cycle of hitting and running away, trying to avoid being pummeled back, or shooting your enemies from the distance while trying to kite them. You have an option to block attacks, but its window is so short and enemy tells are basically non-existent, so it feels quite useless. There are moves such as dashing or the spinning attack, but they are not really reliable, so you'll be spamming basic attacks instead 99% of the time. Special techniques would be really useful if not for the pathetic amount of MP your Digimon has and the inability to renew it without using items or leveling up. Also, the enemies can withstand large amount of punishment thanks to the lack of game balancing. And what's even worse, they have a really annoying tendency to block your attacks, which is perhaps the first time I've seen a Mook being able to block an attack in a hack and slash game. Hell, even merely touching an enemy causes you to receive the same amount of damage as if they hit you. Oh, and if you die, you lose all your bits and some of your experience. You can recover them if you get to the place of your death and use an item called Raise Disc, but die again or exit the game and it's lost forever. Fun, not to mention the camera often screwing up and how hard it is to target when fighting from afar. I can see this game being fun, if chaotic, when played with friends, but while playing solo you'll just get more and more frustrated. And sure, you can kite enemies, hide behind the level geometry so you can attack your enemies without being hit, but does that sound like fun to you? You're barely stronger than standard enemies and can be beaten to a pulp in mere seconds. There's challenge, and then there's Digimon World 4 combat. To be even able to survive during the later missions, you need to grind the same Digimon until you reach certain level. Digivolution is also a complete disappointment. You can unlock slight evolutions to remaining 3 rookies, if you want. There are also 11 Megas and 1 Ultimate that you can transform to, but to acquire most of them you have to do things so obscure that many players don't even know that those forms exist. And when you finally manage to Digivolve, you'll notice that each form has its own level, so you'll have to grind again. Those stats and possible techniques don't really feel like they are worth the hassle. Sure, it's fun to play as your favorites such as Giromon or Giromon, but they really do feel like glorified skins. Well, they have their unique weapons, I guess. Too bad that Digivolution is such a throwaway thing in this game. 16 available Digimon is pathetic, but I guess that's the price of making the game more action and animation heavy. The worst part is that Digimon hack and slash could be really good if done correctly. There are multiple weapon types with different movesets and properties. You can even add special effects using mod items. Enemies drop equipment that has different stats, so there's that nice rush when after long grinding you'll finally get something good. The level cap is extremely high and there are hard and very hard difficulties to beat, with exclusive additional Digivolutions waiting for you. So there's plenty of content. Is it all that worth it though? Huh, I wonder. Audio visuals are pretty okay, the graphics are colorful and quite pleasing to the eye, nothing special, they just fulfill their purpose. The soundtrack, while not feeling like Digimon World, has some really cool tracks that I can see myself listening to in my free time. Nanimon's grunts make a return. Sadly, the other sound effects are quite generic and ill-fitting. I started playing Digimon World 4 with the mindset that it can't really be that bad, as people say, and it really isn't that bad. To be honest, I was nitpicky and overly negative on purpose, to show how most of the fanbase perceives this game. While it shouldn't be a part of the Digimon World brand, it's just a painfully average, inoffensive action game, not really deserving all the hate it got. Of course, most of the criticism towards it is quite warranted. The combat is messy and really simplistic. The game is terribly balanced, with its first hours being a nightmare. Every gameplay element feels half-baked, and the story and setting are completely uninteresting. I've played this game before. Hell, I even finished it. I was disappointed that the only 6th generation Digimon World game was this. But I still had fun. When I replayed the game, at first I was utterly demolished by it. But then I took a slower, more methodical approach, and it clicked again. Playing Digimon World 4 is a battle between the game and the player, who has to outsmart it. To succeed, you really have to use everything at your disposal, even if, at first sight, it looks worthless and ineffective. But once you finally figure it out, it's a great feeling, I tell you. I can see it as a guilty pleasure game. It's not good, but can be enjoyable. It's just really sad that Bandai screwed up something that could be an universally acclaimed game. A simple yet fun action title where you destroy armies of Digimon alone or with friends, becoming more unstoppable with every level up and piece of gear you collect. Hey, Bandai, that's your chance. Make another Digimon action game. It will sell, I can guarantee you. I, and many others, will probably never forgive Bandai for putting this game as a part of the Digimon World series, as it really hurt this game, causing fans to have expectations that could not be fulfilled, thus making them even angrier at the game and the brand of Digimon World as a whole. 4 sold poorly, making Bandai think that people aren't interested in the series anymore, while the fans became jaded. All in all, I recommend you to not bother with Digimon World 4, as it is a part of the series in the name only. It took 7.5 years for another Digimon World game to appear. After the commercial and critical failure of Digimon World 4, Bandai had plenty of time to think about another gimmicky gameplay change to implement in the next game in the series. They did the unthinkable and actually went with the original formula. Finally, after 13 years from its Japanese release, Digimon World gets a proper successor, and it actually managed to do what everyone wanted from it, expanding the good, trying to fix the bad, and adding a lot of overall polish. pre-rendered backgrounds were traded for fully 3D locations, which we traverse with the camera being placed conveniently behind our backs. As much as it pains me that the classic style backgrounds are gone, I truly believe that it was the right choice, allowing for the creation of vast and non-conventional layouts for each area, even if you can be blocked by a piece of level geometry that looks like it could be easily passed. Also, the size of locations, paired with environments being 3D, can cause navigational problems, and it's harder to find spawnable items. Thankfully, maps were added to the game, and you can quickly access them by simply opening a menu. There's also a nice map that shows the whole island, something that I really wish the original had. The aesthetics of each region feel a bit blander than those of the original game, but there are still some pretty interesting scenery elements to be seen if you keep your eyes peeled, and their music themes fit them well. Models have more realistic proportions, contrasting with the stylized, cartoony ones from Digimon World 1 and 2. They are quite pretty too, definitely more faithful to the artist's designs. Even if to this day, after having played the PS1 games for so long, my mind can't completely accept long Sidramon or how tall humanoid Digimon are. Once more, our objective is to make a depopulated city thrive by recruiting Digimon, although this time the buildings are already in place, only abandoned. There are also quite a few citizens and visitors already present there. The city layout isn't as intuitive as the one in the previous File City. It takes a bit to learn it by heart. Placing the gym in its center was a really smart decision, as, once more, it is the place you'll be hanging around the most. I just wish they had put the toilet closer to the gym. There's a lot of Digimon to recruit, who are scattered through the whole world, allowing you to get a total of 100 prosperity points. Things you'll be doing to recruit them are also a lot more varied, sometimes even requiring your Digimon to be raised a certain way, like having over 700 in offense or specializing in fire techniques. While most recruits often do nothing but hang around town, they will still give you a small reward, such as an item or accessory for your Digimon to wear. Because yes, now you can equip your Digimon with up to 3 clothing articles from a truly massive list of items. It doesn't add any depth, but is a nice way to personalize your partner. Besides the new protagonist, there are other tamers who constantly show up during our adventure. We even fight together side by side against some bosses, which is neat. There's a lot more plot and dialogue as well, which makes sense with all the new characters to interact with. While the story isn't anything special, it does its job of making the progression meaningful. The characters are still mostly typical anime clichés, but at least they are likable enough to care about them. Since the game is more story-driven, you'll be forced to do locations in a certain order. The more closed design is probably my only serious gripe about this game. In the original Digimon World, the enemy Digimon had really varied movesets, so you could learn and then use plethora of different techniques at any time. In Digitize, the technique progression is practically linear. One part of the game that has been expanded is the Coliseum, where you fight against non-story humans who are simply playing the in-universe Digimon game and are climbing the ranking ladder. Apart from no-names and scrubs, you'll also meet characters from various seasons of the Digimon anime, and Lily from Tekken? There are single battles, tournaments straight up from Digimon World 1, team battles, tamerless battles where your Digimon fights on its own, just like during the rematch with Giromon, and boss battles. There is a lot of content here, with good rewards. Some potential city recruits are even bound to the Coliseum progression. And now for the best part. There's no waiting till 10 o'clock, and Coliseum battles don't devour your precious time, so you can do them to your heart's content. Overall, with all the upgrades to the original formula, it feels like the kids who played the original game became designers and then fixed whatever annoyed them about the game. Here's a list of the most important improvements and additions. Adding Mega Level Digimon and expanding the rooster to 84. Some iconic monsters have sadly been axed, but I understand why. Battles with random Digimon are now worth your time, thanks to the increased stat gains received from winning. Training and raising is much faster, your Digimon has a shorter lifespan, but it makes for a more dynamic game. Bonus try is now different for each trained stat. You have to play minigames now. They can be a pain in the ass and may require save scamming, but it's still a vast improvement over the reels. The game does everything it can to explain its mechanics to players, and there's a neat log where you can read messages containing more or less useful information. Mechanical improvements to combat, such as the ability to store finisher gauge between fights and adding a timing minigame for increasing or decreasing finisher damage. Move command that allows to precisely choose where your Digimon should move. Weak attacks now only having a small chance to interrupt charged attacks, and battles generally have a better pace now. Revamped weaknesses that make much more sense now, and also a new specialty, darkness and light. Though each specialty now only has 7 techniques, so that sucks. Digimon World Digitize is a worthy successor, and honestly a better game than Digimon World. But there's one glaring thing about it that I can't forgive Bandai for. It never left Japan. I can understand skipping the PSP version because of the piracy and the console being far into its lifespan, but omitting the worldwide release of the improved 3DS version? Really? Luckily, the Digimon World community couldn't be more amazing than it already is, and Bandai's mistake was rectified with an actual English fan version of the PSP game. Cheers to everyone who worked on it, especially Romstar, whose work on cracking the original game's code led to most of the knowledge present in this video. I played Digitized for the first time on my PSP in 2019. My PSP, which is an item really dear to me, as it was a gift from my friends for my birthday in 2013. I've abandoned my playthrough about halfway through, for whatever reason. I remember it took me a while to fully appreciate it, even if it really is a superior game in nearly all aspects. Playing it once again gave me a really weird feeling. I wish that I could play the game around the time it was originally released. It was a really rough time for me, and maybe it would help me back then. I, and many others, have lost the opportunity to play this game when it was most relevant, and playing it now makes me wonder what me from back then would think of this game. How many hours would he spend playing it? Well, maybe Bandai did me a solid. My exam scores were low enough back then, and a new Digimon World wouldn't help for sure. Still, it's a real shame, as Digitize is a fantastic game and a big step in the right direction.
Digimon World Next Order.
First thing that has to be said about Next Order is that it wasn't released outside Japan. Again. Well, the PSVita version wasn't. Nine months after its initial release, on January 27, 2017, the PS4 port hit the European shelves, and then the US. No words can properly express my gratitude for this, as Next Order is the best thing that happened to Digimon World for a long time. Next Order takes the base of the original game and improvements made by Digitize, and then cranks it up to 11. From the very start, the player is put right into the action, facing Giromon in a battle during which all the intricacies are explained to them. The game is even more complex than both of its predecessors, but it does everything it can to explain its mechanics to the players. The biggest change is making the player care for two Digimon at the same time, just like in the newer versions of VPET. It makes the player more engaged during the battles, which got revamped, and outside of MP that your Digimon use to attack, they slowly accumulate order points that allow you to order an instant attack without spending MP, use a finisher, special buff ability exclusive for each Digimon, or even DNA Digivolve. Type advantages make more sense, there is properly implemented critical hit system, training is now much more streamlined and is done by a simple timing minigame, which results being boosted by various factors such as time of the day or happiness. You can rest at the gym for maximum convenience. By taking good care of your Digimon, you also get information what parameters you need for each Digivolution, which is pure brilliance. Also, your Digimon feel even more like living beings, with them constantly talking to you, forming rivalries between each other, demanding praise, acting bratty. Happiness also gets reset each day, so you have to be more attentive. There are 231 different Digimon you can raise, world is even larger, locations are vast and more vertical than in Digitize. Each one of 10 available zones provide players with interesting storylines and secrets, my favorite being war between meat lovers and vegetarians in Oguino Wasteland. There's also a very well made map system available at all times. Once again, we recruit Digimon to rebuild main city of the continent, now with 200 prosperity points to obtain, and there's just so much more to build in the city, from the regulars like restaurant, item shops or arena, to newcomers such as Digivolution Dojo or Casino. In fact, city gets so large that later it's split into districts. Apart from recruiting Digimon, you also need to gather materials during your explorations. You as a tamer level up and gain new traits by getting experience. Game keeps more story-based structure of Digitize, but with even better writing and characters. And our boy makes a return! You can even battle him and his Mamemon and Machindramon team. Everything in this game is made just as if it was supposed to be a large love letter to the fans of the original. Quality of life improvements are outstanding and yet feel respectful. There's a lot of fan service, of both kinds. Ice Sanctuary makes a return. classic techniques like Ice Statue or Digidimension too. Even our character is a kid that was big into the Digimon years ago and now wants to relive his childhood again. Nice touch. Audio-visual side would be my only problem with the game. Graphics are fine, as they've upscaled textures and added many visual details when porting the game from Vita. They simply look underwhelming for a PS4 game. Each Digimon has a very small number of animations. Techniques look baffling when you remember the ones from the original. Meanwhile, music is fine, I guess. There are some pretty nice tracks, but the best are remixes of the original tunes. The new ones seem a bit too different. There's also the problem of recolors. Getting them always is a bit disappointing. Many of the less popular OG Digimon got omitted too. Outside the fact that the game is much slower than the original and re-digitized, there's not much more beef I have with it. I could sing praises for the game for the next 30 minutes, but there's no point to it, as you can check it out yourself. While the game was initially released for PS4 in 2023, it was also released both on Nintendo Switch and PC, so nearly everyone who wants to play it can do so without much issue. It's definitely the best Digimon World game there is, and there's so much to do that it's not even funny. If anything I've just said sounds good to you, just play this game. Just do it, please.